today is Sunday the 1st of March and tomorrow is a Monday. It's the 2nd of March, but I did take the day off from work simply because I wanted to chill and relax a little bit because the last few weeks at work have been quite stressful and difficult and very busy. I've realized recently that things that help me de-stress are not actually common sense for a lot of people. Most people would probably suggest sitting on the couch, watching TV, relaxing, doing light tasks, perhaps nothing at all. Really just relaxing and doing nothing at all is probably the way that a lot of people would try to enjoy a day off. But when you have a creative nature and potentially some mental health issues, the way that you end up relaxing is by being productive for yourself. By that, I mean that when I have done things for my own hobbies, things that I genuinely like, but I feel productive in them, I feel really, really good about myself afterwards. And I think it helps me cure a lot of my anxiety issues, and it tends to make me feel better after a hard week at work, etc. So really it's almost contradictory because I may be very stressed from work and have no desire or motivation to do anything after work, but in reality if I did something after work I would feel better about the stress. So in order to combat the Sunday scaries that I have moved to a Monday, tomorrow we're going to do a full day writing and pretending that I'm a full-time author. I have seen a lot of people do this little experiment on YouTube and I really love watching those, and I think it's such a fun concept just in general, the idea of pretending for a day that you're a full-time author and that you have nothing else to worry about than that as your job. So I would really love to try it, even if it's just for a day. So I'm filming this the day before, mostly because I want to establish some basic parameters, not per se rules, but just parameters for this experiment. I think one of the things I'm going to do is try to wake up approximately around the same time I would for work, which is not very early, so I don't have to worry too much about this. Usually at 8:35, that's when my first alarm, which is like a sunrise, fake sunrise alarm, rings. And then I also have an emergency for in case alarm on my phone at 8:45, because I generally do not need much more time than 15 minutes to get ready in the morning. I just need to wash my face, brush my teeth, get generally ready, and then turn my laptop on, and that's it. So 15 minutes is all I need, and then normally I start work at 9. I will give myself a 30-minute buffer because last night I was really ill and I haven't slept much, and so just in case my body feels like it needs an extra 30 minutes or so to recuperate, I'll give it to myself. There are several ways that people do this experiment. There's one way that is what you would generally do if you could have your own schedule and do whatever you wanted with it, and you could just write whenever. So potentially people would do a bunch of activities like going to the gym and everything in the morning, doing other things, and then in the afternoon do their writing, or perhaps they would divide their day in other tasks, but maybe their schedule would not match a regular working schedule. And then there are people who are running the experiment more in the sense of pretending that their full day of regular work has become a full day of writing work instead. So essentially doing a 9 to 5 or 9 to 5:30 in my case, but with writing tasks instead of their regular work tasks. If I'm to follow that second experiment, then I would need to do work from around 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. I tend to take my break pretty regularly between 1 and 2 p.m. and I do tend to take a full hour because I really need it, otherwise my brain fries. And then I would start work again at 2 p.m. and finish at 5:30 p.m. I have usually during the morning and the afternoon a couple of 5 to 10 minute breaks to get a little coffee, nothing more than that, so probably 10 minutes total in the morning, 15 minutes total in the afternoon. There are probably other tasks that I would like to do than just writing, and currently the main thing I'm going to be doing is I'm in the middle of my draft 2 for Rules of Survival, so it's a lot of retyping scenes that I've already written before and changing small elements within them to develop the plot a little bit better. So it's nothing drastic, but I do feel like I will get pretty bored if that's all I'm doing all day long for the entirety of the 7.5 hours if I were to follow my regular work schedule. So I think instead I will also do other things related to my general writing productivity. So for instance, I will take a look at some ideas for video content. I think I will also allow myself a little bit of time, perhaps an hour to 2 hours max on the day, to work on one of my plot bunny ideas, and just if I want to do anything like mood boarding or anything of the sort, maybe I'll give myself some time to do that. That way it will split up my work on just retyping things and divide it a little bit more equally around the day so that it's not constantly a huge block of just doing that. And I think I will try to do what I normally do as well during my regular work day, which is I always try to fit in 30 minutes walk. Sometimes it's shorter than that, maybe 20 minutes, but 20 minutes to 30 minutes is on average what I try to do at lunchtime. And I'm definitely going to try to do that as well tomorrow. Essentially, the way I will run my own experiment is the second way, which is to follow my regular work schedule but make it about writing and pretend that I'm a writer for a full-time day. If I were to have time within my work week that is not my current daytime job but is writing, then I think I would schedule it in a similar manner than my regular work so that the routine would help me stay on track and do things and be productive. And then I would also then feel like at 5:30 or like 6 p.m. I am pretty free to do random other things, and that way I still feel like I have been very productive throughout the day as well as been able to do some other tasks. I think I will try to go around 9:30 to 6-ish with an hour to an hour 30 break in the middle and small breaks of 10 to 15 minutes in the morning and in the afternoon. And then as part of the experiment, I mostly want to see how I feel afterwards. Whether I'm still getting a little bit of the Sunday scaries or if I feel better because I've been productive for myself. I just want to evaluate my own personal mental health after doing a full day of doing that, and whether it has improved my mood for the rest of the week as well, because I've been able to allocate more time to myself. So on that note, I will leave you guys and we'll start the experiment tomorrow morning. It's 10:04 exactly. I have started a Pomodoro that is 30 minutes writing and then 10 minutes break. So I'm currently in my 10-minute break. I have 6 minutes left. I've got a coffee in my hands and I've already retyped / edited 560 words so far of this scene. I'm currently in the middle of chapter 4. And I'm in the second scene within this chapter, which is kind of when Themis, my main character, is confronted to the people of her past because she's in a meeting room with all of them, with the people that survived the previous mission, and discussing the details of the next mission they're going on. And she's also meeting Axel for the first time, and she's just now left the meeting room and she's being accosted already by her ex Carson, and soon she's gonna be in a lift with Axel, meeting him individually for the first time, with a tiny little bit of flirty tension, and that's it. So I really like the scene. I'm not changing a ton within it, but I have added in a couple of details that I didn't have before. Things about timelines. So I didn't really have a clear indication of the timeline before. I think I said it was like 2 weeks later that they would depart, but I've added a couple more weeks so that it's 4 weeks later they would depart. I've also explained why in a quick sentence, where I say it's because they have to go through basic trainings for space exploration, but people who have been really recently on a mission are exempt. So both Axel and Themis will be exempt because they're freelancers and they're constantly on missions. I've also finally changed my shuttle name. So my main ship is called the Carpathia, which is the name of the ship that went to save the Titanic. And I had a shuttle name for this ship. So like there's like an individual shuttle that detaches itself from the ship and, you know, navigates towards the planet or whatever. I'd named it the satellite, but it became really confusing because I also have actual satellites mentioned in the book, and I was like, oh, this is too confusing, I need to name it something else. And a lot of the other naming conventions for shuttles I've established is that if you have more than one, they tend to be named after the ship with a number or a Greek letter or something like that. So it could be Carpathia 1 or Carpathia Alpha. But ships who only have one shuttle tend to have a unique denomination for their shuttle. So I decided to name it the Rustron, which is the name of the captain of the vessel, so of the Carpathia at the time, who tried to go save the Titanic. It's a little bit on the nose, but I kind of feel like that's exactly what Vortex would do, because they're an evil corporation who are trying to paint themselves as a good corporation and are trying to pretend like they're doing all the good stuff. So I feel like naming things in a way like this that would indicate that they're the good guys is very much what they would do. But yes, I'm already feeling quite productive. Like, it's just been not even an hour because I started my day at 9:15. I started with 15 minutes of just writing down a little list of things I wanted to do this week, and then a list of things I wanted to do today specifically for this experiment. I have on my list things like I want to edit at least one scene, which is quite a lot of words, so one scene in one day makes kind of a lot of sense if I have a full day. I want to spend 30 minutes on video ideas because I do try to spend some time thinking about the content I can give you guys. I want to spend an hour on my plot bunny, so cheating on my main book and having a little think about other books that I currently would love to work on as well. And I want to spend an hour or two max on making content. So I think this includes me talking to you guys within this video, but it could also be if I have another idea for a video I really want to make. I have the time today, I might as well use it. And finally, I want to have 30 minutes for a walk. So these are the different time-based goals that I have for today. It's now 12:20 and I have spent the morning writing, and I finished the entire scene, which was the end of chapter 4. So I'm done with that scene and I've done a total of 2,041 words, so I feel really good about that. This was a lot of retyping. I don't think that scene had anything drastic to change inside of it, which was really useful because then I could do a lot of progress without having to constantly think. So I can mark this one as done and mark the next one as in progress. So the next scene I'm going to work on is when Themis meets up with Freddie, the doctor of the group, and her ex-friend. So I think this scene isn't going to change too much, but there's a couple of things I wanted to add in it. And I also do have a new scene that comes up straight after that is actually going to be part of the same chapter, because she's also going to meet up with Saturn, which I hadn't planned to do in my first draft, but then I realized I was missing some interactions with Saturn. I felt like Saturn's character was a little bit flat and a little bit too deep. So I feel like in order to fix that, having another scene where Themis meets up with them as well would help and would just make it a little bit smoother and create a more realistic character. So those are the things I'm going to do. I feel pretty happy with my progress this morning. I also did spend the last 20 minutes or so kind of planning things around my best friend's hen do, because I was contacting some people in the group for some things, then people came back to me today, so I was like, okay, let me do a little bit of that. So I did mark up a new small task in my to-do list, which is to spend perhaps an hour max on the hen-do organization, because that is something I need to do anyway this week. I feel like I'd feel better doing it now than during the work week itself when I'm actually working. It would be more practical for me to do that. So if there's anything else I need to organize, which I do have a couple of small things, some things I need to buy, game ideas I need to come up with, etc. I might do a little bit of work on that, but I might spend a little bit extra time in my entire day in order to fit that in, because I don't really want to reduce the other hours that I'm spending on other things for my productivity. So I kind of feel like my day will be an extra hour compared to what I would normally do for a work weekday. So instead of having 7.5 hours of pure productivity, I might do 8.5 hours and add in there the hen-do planning stuff and everything. Couple more items to add to the list. But yeah, I think I might take a little break from writing per se right now. I kind of feel like I'm not super hungry yet. It's really sunny outside. I feel kind of motivated to move around a little bit, so I might do my 30-minute walk now because it's 26, and if I can leave at like past, then I'm back around 1 and then I can have my lunch. So I think I might do that. So it is now 4 p.m. and I will stop writing here, I think, maybe for the day. I wrote close to 4,000 words today. I'm at 3,943 words for today, and in total in the manuscript I've just reached 16,946 words. So I've just finished rewriting or editing scene, the only scene that I had in chapter 5, which is when Themis and Freddie meet up for coffee and discuss why Themis decided to go on the mission and why Freddie decided to go on the mission. And I'm now at a point where I'm going to need to write the next scene, which is the Saturn scene, where the same thing happens, although obviously with different reactions and different discussions, but something similar. I need to make it shorter. I don't want it to be super lengthy, but I do need to write it up, and I've not written it before, so it'll be a brand new scene, so I do need to have a little think about it. I wrote some bullet points, including the fact that I want to establish here that Saturn is the one who sent the mysterious email with the details of the crew they're hiring at Vortex to Themis, because Saturn does have computer capabilities, which I did mention before. I want to reveal a little bit about Saturn's personality and their wants. The fact that they want the Rosetta implant, which is an implant that a lot of scientists get when they go on a lot of space exploration, because it basically records everything that they find and logs it into a huge database that they all have access to through this implant that is really expensive. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about their past relationship with Professor Rodimir, who was their boss on the previous mission and died. I want to talk briefly about what they saw during the mission and the fact that they didn't see much, and I feel like they're going to be their reasons for going is that they're a little bit more of a St. Thomas type of character and that they need to see it to believe it type of thing. But on the other hand, they're of two minds, and the other mind is that they do believe that the only reason everyone who did make it out alive made it out alive is because of Themis, which is kind of also why they sent the email in the first place. Not only so that Themis would know this was going on, but also because a part of them truly believes they only made it out because of Themis. So I need to establish all of these bullet points inside of that scene, and I think maybe I will start it tonight, but at the moment it's 4 p.m. I feel like I've done enough typing. I'm a little bit annoyed that I didn't reach exactly 4K because I only have like 60 words left to reach it, so I might like write one sentence or something just to fill that in later on. But I think I'm going to take a small break, maybe like 30 minutes or so. I think at 4:30 I will do a little bit of video research, buying the items I wanted to for the hen-do I'm planning, and potentially mood boarding / thinking around my plot bunny idea. So these three in whichever order, I don't know yet, but I think that's what I will do next. And then maybe I'll take a longer break around dinner and maybe do another hour of writing afterwards. It is now 6 p.m. and it's getting dark out there. There's still a tiny bit of lighter blue sky, but we're getting to the end of the day and I kind of feel like my energy is also getting to a lower point now because I feel like I've done a lot today. So I did end up writing one more couple of sentences for the very beginning of the next scene in Rules of Survival, which means that I reached 4K for the day. I'm very, very proud of myself for that. I feel like I would never do this if I were just writing during a weekend. I never write this much during the weekend for sure. And I think treating the day like it was a regular work day really helped me to do this. I'm now currently watching Crystal's stream, and because I've already written so much, I wanted to do something a little bit different for my brain. So first of all, before her stream, I bought a bunch of favors for all the different hens at my best friend's hen do. I've bought a bunch of things for that, and I feel like that's my task done for the day on hen do prep. And then right now we've been sprinting for 40 minutes. There's another 5 minutes on the clock. And what I did is I did a little bit more research for videos that I want to make. And I ended up outlining one of the videos that I had an idea for already. So I made a full outline for it. Very happy with that, because that means it will be so much easier to film when I get down to it. And that's why I do this now, is just helping myself, helping future me by just making sure that some of the pre-prep tasks are done, such as outlining, and that way when I film I have an idea of where I'm going, what I'm going to say, and it's a lot easier. So I've done that, which means I can cross off spend 30 minutes on video ideas, and 1 to 2 hours of making content. I feel like outlining counts, so I'm gonna count that as part of it. And then the only thing left to do on my list is to spend some time on my plot bunny, which I think I'm gonna take a small break and maybe have a snack or dinner. It's 6 p.m. I normally eat around 7, and I might get to this a little bit later tonight. But I feel like at this point in the day I have done enough to feel really productive. So yeah, the only other thing that I would like to do is maybe spend a little bit less time than I initially planned, maybe like 30 minutes on a plot bunny. And I think I might do that in Crystal's next sprint, and then I'll probably call it a day. So I'll catch up with you when I get to that. So this is going to be my last update of the night. It's actually close to 11 p.m. right now. It's 10:50 and I ended up doing nothing else, to be honest. But I feel like I was still really productive today. So the only thing I didn't really do was to spend an hour on my plot bunny, which I think is fine. I probably could have done it if I hadn't done some work on my hen-do planning stuff. I also was just really enjoying myself reading a manhwa that I've been reading. It's another isekai, and technically the plot bunny idea I've got is inspired by those. So I kind of feel like I was fueling that inspiration. So maybe I'll even tick it off. I mean, I can do whatever I want. There we go. I've ticked it off. Everything on my list. So this little experiment was great. I also feel really good about my progress for the day, and I feel like, realistically speaking, if I were to have a Monday like this every single week, I might not do 4,000 words every single week. And I also feel like I'm currently editing, so it means I'm retyping a lot of the same words that I've already done before. It's much easier work than writing brand new scenes, which is what I'll be doing the rest of this week. So I do feel like 4K is perhaps shooting on the higher end of the scale. But if I were to average it out and say some days I could do 1,000 words and some days 4,000 words like today, then let's say my average would be 2K every single time I get a day to be a full-time author, right? The amount of work I would get done in no time is crazy, just to imagine that, which was kind of the goal of this little experiment, was to see how would I fare if I were to work this way as a full-time writer. I think what worked well for me was actually keeping to a sort of schedule and keeping it semi-strict. I noticed as well that in the morning I used a Pomodoro technique and had the timers on to tell me when to work, when to stop working. And in the afternoon I didn't use it, and I was just typing away as much as I could, and I ended up being like, okay, I need to finish the scene. And it meant that I didn't really take breaks between moments that I was writing the scene. It felt a bit more intense and less good for my mental health overall, so I feel like the Pomodoro technique was better. I'm glad I learned that, because it was just, I still felt like I achieved something because I had achieved a 30 minutes full timer essentially. So it was like ticked off the time I had to spend on it rather than finishing an entire scene, right? So it was more the time instead of the word count. And I feel like in the afternoon, when I didn't use the Pomodoro technique, I was just trying to get something done, and the one thing I could see was this scene that I'm currently working on, and that was it, which was a lot bigger and took a lot longer than just one 30-minute check mark. So I feel like it was better in the morning for that reason. Finally, do I also feel less stressed for the rest of my work week? I do. Partially because of this, partially because I cheated and went to look at my emails, and so some things had sorted themselves out while I was out, so that was good to know. But I also do think that the reason why this helps me feel better about a currently stressful work life is because I'm regaining some control over my own time by doing this. I read at the beginning of the year a book called The Psychology of Money, and even though it's supposed to help me with my financial literacy, I feel like it was really helpful from the point of view of an author and just life lessons in general. And I noted down 2 of the quotes from that book that really marked me about freedom. The first one is, "But doing something you love on a schedule you can't control can feel the same as doing something you hate." And the second one is, "Take it from those who have lived through everything. Controlling your time is the highest dividend money pays." Which is why I wanted to do this little experiment today, because the freedom to be able to do my own productive stuff like writing is what I desire the most, and it's what feels the best. So when I'm doing something that I supposedly loved, because I used to love being a designer, but it's now become a burden of work, and it's now taking more time than I intended to give it because of work being stressful and asking for extra hours, etc., it doesn't feel like freedom, it doesn't feel good, and I start to resent it and I start to hate it, which is where that stress is coming from. So when I can balance it out with a day like this where I can do more things for myself, I feel much better, I feel much more in control, and I feel a lot more free. I think that's why I wanted to do this, and I think I proved to myself that if I were to go part-time, or if I were to one day be able to get money from writing, I would love to be able to have more time to dedicate to this craft. So all in all, this felt like a successful little experiment. I can't guarantee that if I were to be a full-time author, I would work like this every single day. I probably would not, but I would probably try to do it at least for half of the week. And I would hopefully succeed in doing, on average, 2,000 words during one of those days. And perhaps not as good as today with my 4K word count. And on that note, I will end this video here because I have been yapping for a while. I hope you enjoyed this content. I will try to do more of these because they're really fun as well. And also it means I get to take a day off. So I would love to do that more often. And if you enjoy that kind of content, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I'll try and give you more of the same. On that note, see you guys in the next one.